Hello everyone, welcome to The Insight. I am Babler Jonathan. Violence is rife in the Cameroonian society today. Almost on daily basis, either it is a bike rider insulting another biker, or a client or a taxi driver quarreling violently with another client to the point of fighting and injuring and even killing one another. A recent case occurred in Kribi in the south region of the country where a biker stabbed a client to death, according to security sources, in a dispute over just 200 francs CFA. Just 50, 100, 200 francs CFA, leading to death in the Cameroonian society today. That speaks volumes of the level of violence in the Cameroonian society today. And we have several cases of femicide, husbands, wives fighting, killing each other, parents killed by their own children. The case of journalist Ngo Yeber is a recent case. According to security sources, the journalist was killed and her corpse mutilated by her own son in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. Violence just everywhere. On the streets of Cameroon, in schools, in other institutions, extrajudicial killings going on in the crisis-stricken northwest and southwest and far north regions of the country where there are security tensions, violence online, violence just everywhere in the Cameroonian society today. And with regards to the devastating consequences of this problem and ahead of the 2025 elections in Cameroon, it is imperative to take a critical look at this problem in a bid to find lasting solutions that will contribute in enhancing peace building in Cameroon. We are looking at this in this edition of The Insight. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Our guest today is Tumfo Barrister Nico Hale. He's an international lawyer and peace crusader with more than 30 years of peace crusading. He's an anti-corruption crusader, international election expert. He has received about 178 national and international awards on peace crusading, good governance, and fight against corruption, moral decadence, hate speech, and xenophobia. And he is a holder of 3 honorary doctorate degrees, 1 from a local higher institution of learning and 2 from international universities. Barrister, you're welcome to the program.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure honoring your invitation. Babila, the picture you have painted on violence spread all over the place, it's painful, despicable. My heart bleeds. It shows the level of moral decadence, because violence begets violence. We don't need violence. Violence, the absence of what? Love. When there is no love, all other things that are happening are negative. And when I talk of love, love is the hallmark. From love you have equity, justice. From love, you have transparency and accountability. From love, you have integrity, dignity, and honor. From love, you have the truth. From love, you have the fear of the Lord, which is the beginning of wisdom. From love, you have patriotism. From love, you have what we call goodness, kindness, self-control. From love, you now have that platform of love. All those that flow from love will put in place peace. Because the opposite of what we have described, which is hate, we can call it hatred. Hatred is what we call intense dislike. The opposite of hatred is love. As long as love does not exist, all of those situations you've described, even the gory, despicable situations, as a result of the absence of love.
Now, Barrister, some observers have attributed this problem of violence to the precarious economic and social conditions in which many Cameroonians are living today. Chronic poverty, hardship, despicable hardship. And this a link can be directly drawn from this to what you just said now about love, which now ties with the distribution of national wealth, which seems not to be equitable, and leaving so many in very difficult living conditions, while some few are living in extreme affluence. What's your analysis of this side of the causes of this problem of violence, the difficult socio-economic situation of many Cameroonians today?
To be very honest with you, unemployment, poverty, misery, despair, all of that create frustration. Frustration. And once there's frustration, be very sure there will be violence. Be very sure there will be violence. Now, I've always said, and that is, I take it to the Bible, Proverbs 22:6. Bring up the child in the way of the Lord. And when that child grows up, he will not depart from. Most of these children, or most of the people, not only children, who are wreaking havoc, who are devastating our resources, plundering and looting the resources, creating poverty, don't have any moral platform. Their exploits are empty for their stomachs. So, what you're describing is so despicable, mind-boggling. And my heart bleeds profusely to know that a nation that is blessed with huge resources, I mean huge, take me for that word, should be limping to the extent that unemployment is uncontrollable. When you discriminate, when you are tribalistic, when you are so much into xenophobia, hate speech, arrogance, you don't care what happens to the rest of the people in the world. These are all God's children that He has blessed with these resources. They don't deserve to be in that situation which you have described.
But Master, what's your analysis of this scenario of a bike rider fighting with a client to the point of stabbing the client to death over 200 francs CFA? Yes, and there are some situations where the fight generates or is provoked by an issue of just 50 francs.
You call 50 francs just. Some people live on 50 francs a month. You don't call it just 50 francs, you call it just? You don't need to say it's the absence of moral and spiritual upbringing. You want to ask yourself, how did we get there? Let me tell you, God has created humanity and has provided sufficient resources to take care of humanity. Let me tell you, we have 7.4 billion people in the world. God has provided food, resources, comfort, joy for more than 8 billion. And so the problem is greed. The problem is what I just said, embezzlement, misappropriation, corruption, bribery, discrimination. You don't represent anything. That causes all of that package. Causes what? Dissension. It causes chaos, anarchy, total disorder that you are describing. You say just 200 francs or 50 francs, that is somebody's food for the whole week. Because a few of us have looted and plundered the resources, and we're blaming other people. If love existed, I should know that if champagne is sweet in Nico Halle's mouth, it is also sweet in Babila's mouth. Let me tell you, the golden rule in the Bible, do unto others what you expect to be done to you. That's a golden rule. And I'll add to that, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all other things will be added. Without the kingdom of heaven, and the kingdom of heaven, we're talking about love. That is the starting point, love. And that is the greatest commandment in the Bible. I think it's Matthew 22, 37 to 39. Love God with all your heart, with all your mind, and all your strength, and love your neighbor. Neighbor is not one who is living next. It's not a question of proximity. I should love a man in extreme north, extreme south, extreme east, extreme west. All of them should be my brothers. All of them should be my brothers and sisters. So when my action, I always ask, it affects X or Y. It must be positive. If it's negative, then I'm squandering my stay here on earth. Because I have just some time to live on earth. You have a period to live on earth. After that, you are gone. What's your legacy? How do you impact the world? By stealing? By seizing people's wives? By impregnating people's daughters because you have a few friends? Because you're a lawyer or because you're a journalist?
And when we look at the level of violence today, because it is very easy, if you live from one point to another, it is very easy to find somebody insulting another, a taxi driver insulting a client,
Absence of love.
A client insulting a cab driver, and telling him that he's up to his more or less nothing.
Yes.
He wants nothing.
Yes.
Yes. He represents.
It's a result of what? Frustration also, and the absence of moralization. Moralization, which has been, pronounced by so many people, but the moralization is not coming. The day we'll start moralizing and spiritualizing ourselves, the society, then positive things will just fall in place. That is the answer. Let me tell you, take away love and the platform that I just mentioned, you have nothing. You have chaos. You can do anything. You can even pray without taking care of dealing with those situations, making sure that there is what we call spiritual and moral rearmament. We can take 1 month just to preach that nationwide, take everybody on board. Moralize people. Let people know that public finances or funds are for public use, are for common use. Let people know that they don't have a right to loot and plunder. Yes, unfortunately, and I want to say here, a few people who go in for sanitization are persecuted. So, when you stand for those values that I've mentioned here, be very sure who will love you. Because the majority are on the other side. They don't care whether you are moralistic, you have morals, and you are spiritual. They don't care. We need to mobilize. We need to mobilize the society. Not only the churches. You have decadence also in the churches. There's junk in the churches. You know how corrupt some of our church leaders are, and Christians alike are. And so, what are you talking about? And then you go down to the civil societies, presque la même chose. You go this way, everybody is fighting to grab. Everybody is fighting to grab. That is the unfortunate thing. That is unfortunate. And once there is chaos, anarchy, disorder, no good thing can happen. You can have the huge natural resources that I mentioned here, unless there's what we call the enabling environment, I call conducive environment, calm environment. You cannot go far. You have people who have the mentality, the mindset of only stealing. And once you steal, you deprive some other person of what is his. You know what happens if they give us 2 bottles of Tangi here and I take the 2 bottles? I have deprived you of your drink. And you cannot have kind words for me. Definitely not. That is it.
And the future, Barrister, seems to be somehow bleak because these years are being transferred to the young generation, to the children. We'll talk about this after we must have seen what the newspapers reported this week. This is the press review.
The Guardian Post exclaims over the death of 4 persons during a military raid in Kumbo in the northwest region of Cameroon. In municipal updates, Territorial Administration Minister Paul Atanganji issues a 60-day ultimatum to MTN and Orange to identify owners of 450 unidentified SIM cards used to pay ransom to terrorists in the far north region and separatist fighters in the northwest and southwest regions, amounting to 390 million francs yearly. Another issue of the Guardian Post reports horror in Yaoundé as a graduate of the National School of Administration and Magistracy, ENAM, allegedly kills and dismembers his mother. Journalist Ngoyibel, Cameroon Tribune reports that the minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense, Joseph Betia Somo, and other security officials met in Yaoundé to evaluate the country's security situation ahead of the National Unity Day, May 20. Concerning the construction of community markets in Bamenda, the Herald Tribune tells its readers that the contracting firm fires back at the city mayor, accusing him of absconding his responsibilities. Municipal update. The Cameroon Development Corporation decries losses as encroachment into the corporation's land worsens. Another issue of Cameroon Tribune calls for urgent sanitary measures and actions in filling stations, factories and restaurants to protect the population and the environment. The Horizon reports that international election expert Ntumfo Barrister Nico Hale attribute Senegal's free, fair and transparent elections to the culture of integrity.
Right, you're welcome back. We're still with our guest, Ntumfo Barrister Nico Hale, international lawyer and peace crusader with more than 30 years of peace crusading. Barrister, what is happening to the children of Cameroon today, the young people who are supposed to be respectful, obedient, and all the virtues that but we see students fighting their teachers, even killing some, burning vehicles, and doing all sorts of terrible things today.
The absence of spirituality, the absence of moralization. Bring up the child in the way of the Lord. When that child grows, he will not depart. Parents are so busy to take care of their children. Parents are so busy to have meditation in the morning, read the Bible. Parents are so busy to tell their children, please do not get any person's pencil or book because we will provide yours. Parents are so busy to ensure that their children are well dressed. Some go to school unkempt. Parents are so busy that they don't monitor what their children do before school and after school. When you are so busy, the devil takes control of your child or your children. And what the children will serve you with will be decadence. So unless and until parents assume their responsibilities, after that, teachers also need to assume their responsibilities because you have peer pressure. Some of these children pick all of these decadent behaviors from their friends in school. They smoke, they chase, they rape, they fight, they are violent, some of them even aggress their teachers. It's unacceptable. I don't know any of this during our times when we went to school. So some don't even respect their parents. But because the parents don't deserve respect, a parent who drinks, gets drunk every day, who fights every day, who insults people every day, who is arrogant, who is overbearing,
who beats up the wife.
You're beating up your wife, the children will learn beating from you. And don't tell your son tomorrow not to beat the wife, because your son will take that to his own residence. Beat the wife, beat everybody. So bad habits die hard, and the children are more diligent, more attentive to imbibe those wrong things. If you have 9 wrong things and 1 good thing, they will imbibe the 9 things. And that's what they will be practicing. If the parents don't check, if the teachers don't check, then you go, after that you go to work. If you pass your exams and you are employed anywhere, if you are stealing and your child knows that you are stealing, he will continue to steal. Especially if you have to bribe for your child to be admitted in any. Be very sure that child will know that bribery is just normal, because children consider their parents as role models. Role models. Don't tell the child that your father is this. No, he will say, no, my father, all that my father does is good. So the parents have a major role. The colleagues of theirs, if they are wayward, they are decadent, the children will be. And so don't blame them. How did it happen that so many years back we didn't have what we're having today? How? What has suddenly happened? It is the elderly ones that have ruined the children, because the children learn from their parents and from their elder brothers and from their elder sisters.
And there was a recent case here in Douala in Bonaberi,
yes,
where a child, a young man of about 20 years old, a student of terminal, died in unclear circumstances. And we learned that the young man told the mother on Holy Friday that they asked him to come to school. And he didn't go to school. He rather went to a house somewhere in Bonasama, Petit Bonasama, to do a video recording for TikTok. And that is where the child died in unclear circumstances. And we have this kind of things happening every now and then. And then let me put this scenario to you, Barrister, so you can analyze it. I saw something that shocked me somewhere. It looks like what is bad has become normal in the Cameroonian society today. Insulting somebody today looks like it's a normal thing.
yes.
Using obscene words, violent language has become almost a normal thing. Cheating has become like a normal thing. I saw a scenario in a school, students writing an examination, and you who is not cheating, you're abnormal.
Yeah.
Cheating is like...
Yes, the order of the day.
And worst of all,
Yeah.
an invigilator
Yes.
helping a student to cheat. Telling another student that his classmate sent him or her to come and ask for an answer to give it. And I was shocked with all this.
Yes.
I said, what is happening in the society?
Yes, absence of upbringing, proper parenting is not there. And the children get derailed and find themselves in that kind of situation. Yes, but also know that there is the survival of the fittest. Because you just rightly said the economy is down. Cash flow has dropped considerably. And people have to seek other means of livelihood, which cannot be good means, which can never be good means. They refuse to farm. They refuse to harvest. They refuse to sweep. To be very honest with you, some even refuse to wash their dresses. Some think that their parents should gather their dresses and send to the pressing. Because they were not well brought up. Yes. So, don't blame the children. Don't blame the youth. Blame the grown-up with their decadent practices, equations. Blame them. Yes. All the chaos that you have indicated, the crisis, the anarchy, the disorder, they've learned it from the grown-ups. Yes. The absence of love that they would have imbibed, they would have learned in their youth, in their infancy, their juvenile state, they would have learned that when they were juveniles and they are growing. When you don't teach them, they become delinquents. There's juvenile delinquency because they were not well handled. And then they will grow into youth, same thing. And then into manhood, same thing. And of course, it escalates because at a higher level. Because if you could steal 1,000 francs because you saw only 2,000 or 10,000, when you now place up, your propensity to steal will increase. So And you still, if you have 50 billion, you still 20. 20, but they will not even see, because those who steal, experts in stealing, you can't trace where the money has gone to. Much of it has been used in shares in companies, to buy property in the names of their relatives or their. And so when you talk of, fighting corruption, you might pick 1 or 2, 3 of them, but their bank accounts are empty. So this money, how do you recover? So this is just informative. Let us be serious. And I think that the press has a major role to play to sanitize the society. And that's why I challenge the media. You have been doing great in identifying all those, cases of moral decadence and decrying them and condemning them. But you need to double the tempo, double the fight. Should be aggressive. Make sure, because I cannot fathom, I cannot understand, I cannot justify why there should be unemployment and poverty anywhere in the world. Because I know, well, people will say, oh, there was the COVID thing, there was general economic meltdown or the crunch. Yes, but if we took away corruption, embezzlement, or recovered this money, because recovery is very important for me. We recovered this money, we pump that in creating companies, industries that will absorb the huge number of unemployed youth. It will go a long way to solve the problem. But again, these youths, all education without morality is empty. Education without morality is zero. You talk of academia, you have how many? 5 PhDs. Yes, I have doctorate honoris causa. If I'm not using it for the good of my nation, of humanity, it's empty. It's hypocrisy. You just say I have 178 national and international awards. If I'm not using those awards to God's glory and honor, they are empty. I am empty. So all of the academia, if you imagine the number of professors, doctors, engineers, lawyers, architects, journalists, most of you, that are in Cameroon and in Africa, you cannot justify why there is corruption. Because they could nip it in the bud. You could say, no, I went to school, I did book, but I also read the Bible. I have learned to know that this property, this money, this amount of money, it's public till. It's not my money. You draw a dichotomy between what is yours and what is not yours. You don't need to steal to be rich. And talking about riches, spiritual riches are better than carnal or worldly riches, of wealth of the flesh. So that is what I'm saying. We should be able to canalize and be focused on making sure that we do what the Lord expects us to do, because when all is said and done, Jonathan, Babila, and Nico Halley will be accountable. We held accountable for what we did when we lived. You don't need to be perfect to be awesome. No, because we are not brandishing holier than thou or perfection, but we are saying those fundamental or core moral values that I mentioned here, they constitute the answer to any crisis anywhere in the world.
Barrister, when you go to a country, an African country like Somaliland, people are exchanging money on the streets, piling huge sums of money on the streets, exchanging.
Yes.
And when it's time for prayers, they will leave it there.
Yes, and go and pray.
And go and pray and come back. And the money is there. Yes. Why not here?
Yes. Of morality, moralization. You know this belongs to you, you keep it. You know this belongs to me, don't touch it. I will not touch what does not belong to me. Because that's blood money. That is blood money. People take advantage of some chaos, you know, and make fast, brisk money. That is not good money, now you know. And some people wish, you know, the situation should continue to soar, to last, to escalate. Because they are making their money. They don't care about how many persons are perishing or are suffering, are in abject, and some people are in what we call arrogant opulence. Arrogant opulence, that is, they are stupidly rich, then you don't even know the source of their money. Again, this is something which all Cameroonians, I have said, call that we should turn to God. You know, those of us who, you know, are called by His name. You know, those of us who are called by name, we should seek His face, apologize, humble ourselves, pray, ask for forgiveness. He will always forgive us. This time the same.
And heal the land.
Yes, and He will heal the land.
Now,
that is
in the crisis-stricken regions of the country, when you go to the far north region, Boko Haram terrorists are there doing what they are doing, killing, destroying, maiming people there. When you go down to the northwest and southwest regions, violence, killings have become almost a normal thing. The cops on the street, the head of somebody chopped up and dropped at Church Junction in Bamenda, Old Church Junction in Bamenda, and it looks like a situation of total anarchy, an uncontrollable situation where we have other problems adding to that. In Akwaya, for example, herdsmen coming in from neighboring Nigeria to attack villagers, burn their houses, loot their properties, and do whatever they want to do. Recently, the moderator of the PCC, Right Reverend Funky Samuel Foba, spoke about it on the inside, and some few days after, the Ministry of Defense announced a special operation to liberate the people of Bakassi, or I mean Akwaya in particular, from foreign invasion. But when you look at this whole situation, where violence and killing seem to be normal things happening, how can we describe this state of affairs?
Yes, I think that I listened to the pronouncements of the moderator, which I think he was lambasting or condemning a situation which ought to be avoided. And as the head of the PCC, it was just normal that he came out with his position. What you have described is so generalized and again very painful. I'm so empathetic. That is, I die with the dying and suffer with the suffering. That I don't know whether it's a plus for me or a minus. But when I see somebody dying, or I see a corpse for 1 or 2 days, I don't eat. When I see people being, I don't care. Let me tell you, and take it. The death of a Cameroonian is a big loss for the entire nation. Nobody has a right to take anybody's life. All those soldiers, gendarmes, police, and the so many civilians that have perished don't deserve to die. They don't deserve to die. If we were honest and we shared ego, pride, and arrogance when the crisis erupted. I say this. Yes, nobody deserves to die. Take it from me. Because we're all God's children. We will die eventually. Nobody's going to live eternally or ad infinitum. We are going to die. But let your death come. Your time is up, then you die. Either from. But the Lord should determine when you should die, not man. And I say here, how did we get there? It is because of the absence of love. Because from love, you have justice, equity, transparency, accountability, the truth, integrity, dignity, and honor. You have self-control, you have patriotism. And that's why I'm talking about moralization. You moralize people, you spiritualize people. They understand, they see humanity, they respect the human being. Because the human being is a special creation by God. And so you don't need to take life. No. You don't need to take life.
It is against human laws and the laws of God.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about God. Some people would think that, if you look at the laws of the land, but I'm talking about the laws given us by God. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not kill. And remember, I think it's Matthew 5:9, which says, peacemakers are the children of God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. You cannot love and not be a peace crusader, a peacemaker. You must make peace. Nobody is perfect. We err. But when you err, please go on your knees and ask God to forgive you. Even go on your knees and ask the person you have offended, you have hurt, to forgive you. Each time you say, I'm sorry, you are bigger because you have realized yourself. But if you stay arrogantly, because of pride and arrogance, without saying, I'm sorry, if I had wronged you, Babylon, I should be honest to say, I'm sorry, I called you on the phone. I heard you yesterday, please, I'm feeling bad. Please, can you have some space in your heart to forgive me? And you say, okay, Tumfo, I've heard, it's all over. You have liberated me when you say, I've forgiven you. But some people think that in asking for forgiveness, it's mean. It's bringing them down, whereas that's what, brings them up. That's what exalts them. That's what sends them up. That one venerates them. So, we make mistakes, but you don't make a mistake and not recognize that you have made a mistake. You apologize. There is nobody on earth or in Cameroon who cannot apologize for certain wrongs that have been done. I do apologize on a daily basis. I'm not saying that I commit sin every day to apologize, but I'm saying that if I did things wrong, I'll say, I'm sorry. That doesn't make me smaller or little. I still remain equal.
And some Cameroonians have been saying that As you said, nobody is too big to apologize. No. Some Cameroonians have been saying that while the government authorities, the head of state inclusive, asking the people who are committing some atrocities in the two English-speaking regions of the country to apologize, he too should apologize for all the issues happening in Cameroon. We are not talking about that today. We'll take interviews of the week right now, and when we come back, we'll talk about the solution, how to solve all these issues, notably ahead of the 2025 presidential election, because election periods are delicate periods. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Following the reports we had from the governors of the Northwest, Southwest, and Far North regions, it has been established clearly that most terrorist groups are using the platforms of Orange, MTN, to do criminal operations. Most of the SIM cards are not identified. We have identified more than 450 SIM cards circulating amongst the terrorists in these regions. In certain groups, they have 45 telephones, unidentified telephone numbers. For the reports that we have had, more than 300 million CFA francs have been collected from peaceful Cameroonians because of kidnapping and ransom. In a period of 60 days, MTN management and Orange management, you have to clearly identify all your collaborators in those regions and update us with all the telephone numbers. So within this period of 60 days, I can tell you clearly that you have to put your things properly. Otherwise, you will face serious sanctions. We cannot jeopardize the security of the state.
A lot of people were rushing, packing out things, and they said they got information that they were going to come and break stores, break shops around Right Market. But to our greatest surprise, we noticed that those of us even in front of the Right Market, that's the road going to Bonandale, we too became victims, because if you look behind me, you see that they break a lot of shops because they are complaining that people have saturated the roads, which is true.
You're welcome back. Now, we want to look at how to solve these issues. For Barrister Nico Hale, you talked about moralization. How to implement this is the question. The question is how to implement this idea of moralization, which to you is part of the solution to the increasing violence and even high crime wave in our towns and cities, villages, and almost everywhere around the country. And this, putting it in the context of the elections that are coming up next year, and also looking at, beside the elections, the devastating consequences on life in general. The principle or the idea of moralization, how can this be implemented to solve this problem?
Yeah, I've been talking peace whether there are elections or not. I don't need to wait for elections to talk peace. There are other situations. You have violence, moral violence, psychological violence, emotional violence. You have even material violence, even spiritual violence. And all of those need peace, you know, in order that you can bring normalcy. If you have, let me say, I'm sorry to say you have gonorrhea, and you went and they diagnosed, in fact, they diagnosed you and indicated that you had catarrh, and they gave you drugs for catarrh, you will never get well. The situation only worsens.
Gonorrhea may eventually kill you.
Of course. Okay. Or you get there and your leg is paining, instead of saying that your leg is paining, you say your arm. They will do an X-ray on the leg, maybe give you some balm, but your arm will still be paining you. So we need the truth. This is the moment, and of course, I've been saying it over the years since I started crusading peace for more than 30 years. I say, without the truth, without justice, you can have sustainable peace, which is the most precious asset in the whole world. Peace. There is nothing more precious than peace, because you can have all the resources. You can be a very rich man, rich journalist, but if you don't have peace in your house, the dish, your wife can prepare the best dish, you will not enjoy it, because there's no peace. The way your wife receives you when you return from work, the way she pampers you, she cuddles you, she kisses you, prepares you for a good meal. And the way she behaved with the children before you came, and that you came and discovered that there's calm, there's peace, there's harmony in the house, appetite comes, you eat. And that food will nourish you, and you become rigorous, vigorous, and strong enough to do work, go to rest, go to work next day. Peace, that's why my crusade for peace is unstoppable. I do a lot of peace crusading and reconciliation on people, but I don't bring it to the fore. They come here, they come to my office regularly, because they know when they come, I use the Bible. I don't use the law books. I only use the Bible. When lawyers in Cameroon so many years ago, there was, I would say power tussle, we call it personality court, that some did not want to meet others, and the bar was split. I used the Bible here at Sawa. I invited my brothers, the lawyers, the senior lawyers, and we met, and each person came with his team. We sat and we prayed, and I read certain passages, and I spoke, and that was all. The bar became one, and now organized the General Assembly that had been stalled for about 3 years. So I have, by God's grace, that gift of reconciling people. And people believe in me because I never take advantage of people's mishaps. I'm very objective. I'm very transparent. And I'm disinterested in it. I'm impartial. I look at it objectively, but prayerfully and meditatively. At the end, the people leave the office very satisfied in a matter that was stormy, potentially explosive. And it was already explosive before they brought it to me. And we had all kinds of cases, matrimonial, business cases, betrayal, deception, and all of that, seizure of property. When they come to me, by God's grace, they live so happy. And most of them are living very, very happily, because when they come, I'm not looking at money. I do it pro bono. I am very much, about 70% of what I do in law, or I do when I consult them, is pro bono. And I thank God that He's blessed me with that gift, which I think that I don't arrogate that to myself. I always say, Papa God, thank you. So that is it, the truth, love and the truth. And of course the Bible says the truth will set you free. You have the truth, you get to the root causes of a problem and solve the root causes. Otherwise, you'll be cosmetic, you'll be window dressing. You get what I'm saying? I just use certain illustrations here, scenarios here. If I'm sick and I tell my doctor that I have a headache, whereas I have something sick in my belly or here, they will treat me for this, and I will not get well. So it's very important.
No, Master, the issue here is how to arrive at that point in an environment where people have been practically pushed to the wall, to the extremes. In an environment, I come back to Akwaye because this is a typical example of a situation that is very, very unconducive for such messages. For example, an area like that, in Manyo, in the southwest region, where there is no electricity, there is no pipe-borne water, there is no road going there, no network, no telephone network, no internet, nothing.
It's unfortunate.
How to send these messages across into the heart of somebody who finds himself in this kind of difficult situation?
It will be difficult but possible. You need to...
Because the Reverend even said at one time some authorities from Nigeria crossed over to give them free Nigerian identity cards, and they refused.
I'm not fully briefed with the insights of what you are describing. Maybe if I were fully briefed, I'll be able to make certain pronouncements. But we are talking about underdevelopment, and this all over the place. Not every place is well developed. And you have to decry and make sure that those who are supposed to actualize the development should be doing that. And I think that it was not bad that the moderator came out, was forthright. He came out with with those pronouncements, and I think the powers that be will listen to it. The government, they should do something. I would think that the government should do something because there's no justification for it not to have all those amenities or facilities, basic, facilities to ease life, to make life enjoyable. So that is it.
So, in a nutshell, Barrister, this is where I'm driving to.
Yes.
Should moral rearmament not go together, hand in glove, with solutions to the already existing socio-economic issues in particular, maybe leaving aside the political issues that should be handled politically? What I mean is, while you're telling people not to steal, you're telling people not to go violent, you should be able to give them water to drink, at the same time give them food to eat, enable them to go to the hospital and be able to have treatment and things like that.
Yes, that is it. But we have just said it. You have answered the question. That's what it is. Because, again, I come back to repeat what I've just said. Root causes, what we have painted is the root cause of that frustration. People are now saying this and that. We should look at those root causes and deal with them. Those are human rights. You drum that into the minds of those who are supposed to take care of that. Otherwise, the people will continue to suffer. And if the people continue to suffer, of course, they will not have kind words for you. It gets to a breaking point where violence now comes in. Because some frustrated guy is violent. I don't know of any person who is frustrated who cannot be violent. So what you're saying is what should be done. Yes, you deal with the complaints, listen to the people. Listen to the people and deal with their complaints. Because when people complain, it's because they want you to handle those complaints for their good. So it's just proper.
So when you say that Cameroonians should take their destiny into their hands,
yes,
as far as the elections, is concerned. Are you saying that they should...
And denouncing those situations where rigging or frauding takes place.
What about going to register, getting the vote?
Of course. Yes, you go register and make sure that your votes are counted.
And follow up the counting.
Yes, follow up the counting. In fact, when I did elections in Cameroon, everybody knows, they called me Mr. Transparency, you know that another period. Because I wasn't there for anybody's billings or somebody's lucky or pressing. I made sure that the elections were free, fair, transparent, credible, peaceful, and acceptable.
For Barrister Nico Hale, thank you so much for the insights and wisdom you've shared with us in this edition of the program.
Thank you very much. God should bless your news organ, should bless you, should bless the media, do a good job, and the advocacy of, love, transparency, justice, you people should carry it, make sure that it's widespread for the good of humanity and for the good of man. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for your time, Barrister. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That was true for Barrister Nico Hale, international lawyer and peace crusader. Thank you for your time. That's it for today's edition of the program. You can follow the program on social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube. You can also follow the rebroadcast of the program on Friday at 5 p.m. That's it for today. Goodbye.